Hi, I'm Vlad from ReikiScoop.com, and today we have the lovely LuAnn Kelly, who is a Reiki Master and is a subscriber to ReikiScoop. But the most important thing is that today she is going to share her story regarding her journey on Reiki from the beginning, how it felt, what changes occurred, and we're going to talk a little bit about the implementation and importance of the concept of chakras within the Reiki self treatment. So please enjoy and welcome. Hi, LuAnn. It's lovely to have you here. I'm so happy and honored to have you here. How are you
Well,
today?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
It's uh, it's been a while, but I'm really happy to
Hmm.
see you again. And
Yeah,
I just want to ask you, first of all, how are you, generally speaking? How is
I'm
everything?
I'm actually very good. Yeah, we are. As you, I think you remember, we travel pretty much full time. My husband and I. We spend the summers at a cabin in Canada, and then we spend the winters in our RV in Arizona in the
Right.
United States. But in between those times, we actually spend most of the time in Illinois where our family is. And so right now, we're near my son, and I get to see my grandson, and then I'll see my daughter and my granddaughter soon. So it's a lot of family time, which is really fun, really
That
fun.
sounds beautiful
Yeah,
and
yeah.
relaxing and very harmonious, actually.
Relaxing, I'm not always so sure,
Okay,
but
yeah,
but
maybe
no,
you
it's a
know
lot of
better.
it's a
It's
lot
just
of
sounds. It's just
activity.
how it sounds,
Yes,
but you know
no,
better, of
it
course.
is. It's a lot of fun. It's just young children.
Yeah, no, they can be quite,
Yeah, they're
they
they
can
keep
take
you
your time.
moving.
I
They
know
keep you
that.
moving.
Two of them. Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
Congratulations on four
Thanks.
grandkids and everything.
Yes.
Well, I just want to ask you a little bit about, well, how was your journey with Reiki? What did it mean to you? What in the first stages, what you experienced, if you experienced something, were there any kind of shifts perhaps, or any kind of changes within your life, especially in the beginning, let's say first months or so, if you'd be so kind just to tell us a bit about the starting part of the journey with
Mhm.
Reiki.
Yes. My journey with Reiki has been pretty profound. And so I have to start a little bit, maybe a little bit back a ways. I, s- I, I came to Reiki just a little bit after COVID started. We were in New Mexico traveling and had to kind of stay there because of COVID and kind of hung out there in our RV. And I met a woman who was practicing Reiki, had actually just kind of started. She was a level one, and I had heard nothing. I had knew nothing about Reiki. I had never heard of it. And I really didn't have any real spiritual practices before Reiki. I had meditated in college, which was a long time ago, and it just kind of went by the wayside. I just couldn't kind of maintain that meditation where you were by yourself 20 minutes on your own. It just was really hard to keep up with a family. So it just kind of went by the wayside. Right before COVID, I had quite a few health challenges. And
Right.
I had explored everything that Western medicine could give me. And I had gone through doctors, and nothing was really helping. I had been having daily migraines. I had a lot of general food issues. My body I have thyroid issues. It just went into kind of a hypersensitivity that Western medicine doesn't, it was helping, but it wasn't having much of an effect. And I had started looking at more alternative therapies. And so I had found a naturopath doctor. And so I was working with that doctor. And it just happened that this woman who was also dealing with some health challenges, who is now my best friend, so that kind of tells
Hmm.
you how that
Yeah.
that has come along. But she did a self treatment on me, and honestly, my first self treatment was just very much a. It was very short. It was just a head and chest because we were in the RV. She was,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you just really can't lay down or any of that. So it was just very minor if you look at kind of what a Reiki treatment is. But I have to tell you, it's not like it changed my health right that day. You know, it wasn't like the pain went away or anything like that, but it gave me a sense of calm and peace that I just hadn't been feeling. And that is, I maybe you know, others maybe listening know, when you have health challenges, stress becomes a real part of that problem and
Yeah.
can aggravate your health quite a bit. So just being able to feel peaceful and calm was amazing. And she did a second treatment on me. And as soon as I had that second treatment, it was like, I need to learn this. This is something I want to learn. And so she was able to get me in touch with a Reiki master that was in the area, which was, again, you know, there's my life is full of synchronicities.
Hmm.
Um, and I am aware of that now, but I wasn't aware of it so much then, but I am very aware of it now. But that was one of them, that there would be a Reiki master within an hour's, you know, I was in the most remote part of New Mexico you could be in. Just the very southern part. There was nothing around us because we were trying to stay away from all the COVID.
Right.
So to find a Reiki master within an hour's drive of us was pretty
A long
incredible.
shot.
If you look back at it, you
Yeah.
know. So I got my Reiki level one within a month, I think, of when I met my friend and had my first treatment. And again, like I said, it didn't necessarily right away take the pain away. It gave me a sense of control, though. It gave me a sense of being able to do something for myself, for my health. And it also gave me, truthfully, something to do because I was a pretty physically active person before my health issues.
Yeah.
And then because of the health issues, I had to really stop a lot of, I had been a runner and all these, you know, I was exercising quite a bit. I had to stop all that. I had a lot of hours on my hands of what do I do with myself if I can't, you know, be doing all this physical stuff. And Reiki took the place of that to start. And so I was doing Reiki daily, sometimes multiple times. But if you look now, that was probably, let's see, I've been my level one was probably almost 4.5 years ago. Within that 4.5 years, my health has completely turned around, and obviously, you know, I've been in contact with functional medicine people, and I'm doing all these things with my diet. But all of these things, I truly believe, were were moved, or I was moved into finding these things out for myself because of maybe being just more open. I think Reiki makes you aware of energy, obviously. And then because of that, you just become more aware of what's around you and the positiveness of things around you. And it just has a way of finding what's best and for your highest good. And I really believe that. I mean, I am truly, I feel Reiki has turned my life around, along with all these other alternative therapies and my meditation. I now have a daily meditation practice, and I've been doing that for almost as long as I started Reiki, but a little bit less. So maybe 3 years of a daily. So I have a daily Reiki and a daily meditation practice, which I was telling you I kind of combine. But I guess that's a long answer for your
No, it's
question.
very good
But it's,
actually.
yeah, it really has had quite an effect on my life. And I think it's just that openness. And I think people see it in me as well. There's a calmness that I have that I did not have before. And the anxiety, not that it doesn't creep up on me, but I have an understanding that I have a trust in the universe that I did not have before.
I think your openness actually created an alignment because I know how that
Mm,
feels. But it's like an openness. I don't know how to describe it perfectly in words. It's like you just simply know. I know it sounds a bit maybe cringy or I don't know which word to use, but
mhm,
actually it is like that because when I started, not when I started, but I was already a master Usui Reiki and started going deeper into Karuna Reiki. These synchronicities that you are mentioning started happening. Everything was like, especially after Karuna Master Reiki, after the
mhm,
levels of Master. But I did practice the self treatment, obviously, and I tried to integrate it. I was understanding Usui Reiki, both Karuna and Usui, the elements that they have. And I was in university then. Then I started Shambhala Reiki, but before Shambhala Reiki was this synchronicity. I mean, I was some things in my life, although you know how many things can happen in one's life in that period of
sure,
time, but there were a few things, and everything was just going into place for some reason. And I was open to learning more, and there were. I wish I had more seminars then, and there were more seminars I was finding
mhm,
about Reiki, more courses, and I
mhm,
was absorbing all that information. So I know that this openness can create synchronicities, like someone somewhere. All right, you want this? Here you go. You
mhm,
can have more and more.
mhm.
Just give yourself time to work with it so you can
Right.
absorb it.
Yeah, it's sort of that idea of manifestation kind of comes along with that. So
Yeah.
I think what Reiki brings is you get to know yourself better. You start because you're spending a lot of time in somewhat silence and you're concentrating on the energy within your body. You get to hear your inner voice more if you're if you become more open. So you're listening to your inner voice and you're feeling the energy. And I think when you're putting out that positive energy comes back to you. And I think that's where the synchronicities come in. Like when you're putting out that positive energy and you're I mean, I have to admit there was a lot of prayer for, for health and
Yeah.
a lot of prayer for just feeling better and having things work out. That I feel like that, yeah, it's kind of an openness, but it kind of brings that to you. And I was the same way. I kind of started again because I had a lot of time and I was going down the Google, search, but I would find things that started to resonate for me, meditations that resonated for me. People would pop up on my Facebook feed like you and Reiki Scoop. I seriously,
Thank
I
you.
don't remember how that actually happened, but somehow
Okay.
these things just they pop up and you start to see them because Facebook knows what you like. And so it follows you a little bit, So
Yeah.
after my Reiki one, it was about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year, that I actually did not have the same Reiki master from my Reiki two. I was in a totally different place. We were in Illinois, and I was having lunch with my husband's friend, and he brought his wife, and we were having a conversation. And every once in a while, she would mention something about spiritual being, like she was a spiritual being. So I got a little more confident towards the end of the conversation, and I asked her. I said, do you know Reiki? Are you, familiar with that? And she was a Reiki master.
Oh, okay.
And so I was traveling, so I couldn't really spend time with her, but she did Reiki 2 for me, my Reiki 2 attunement. We did that virtually.
Uh-huh.
So for those people that are wondering about whether or not virtual works as well as in person, it does. For me, yes, it did. And I've done the Shambhala attunement with you, and certainly that was very effective. So I don't have any qualms about virtual attunements or anything like that. But so the Reiki 2 was even better, being able to now give distance Reiki, especially as a traveler, being able to send Reiki to people was really so good. And then I really wasn't interested at the time in doing a master attunement. I really was thinking master attunement was teaching, and I wasn't interested in teaching anybody. But my Reiki master was was really more encouraging me to learn the content and
Yeah,
basically said, you probably would really be benefited by learning the Reiki 3 master content. And
yeah.
then if you want to teach, go ahead and teach, but you don't have to. And I'm so glad I did because yes, the content was worth it. The attunement was worth it. It brought me a whole new energetic frequency.
It
I
does offer
totally felt.
a higher vibration. Yeah, level three. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. With Shambhala too.
yeah.
I mean, I think once you've been practicing Reiki for a while, and I think it is important to practice for a while before you add your attunements. That's my personal,
Ideally, yes. Ideally, yes.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to happen that way, but for me, that's kind of well, my Reiki 2 and 3 they were also about a year apart. So yeah, I think you feel the difference in the energies when you get attuned, when you've been with a certain energy for a while. So I do have my master, and as I mean, these things just come upon. I have actually taught two of my really good friends Reiki, and my daughter-in-law, but only, I mean, these things came to me fluidly. It wasn't like I have a business or I was searching out people. It was just through conversation, through me doing practice sessions on my friends and relatives, which is basically mostly what I've done. But people became interested and asked me if I would do that. My career was I was a teacher, so it
You
was
have
a little bit
experience. Yeah.
natural to go that way, but I wasn't really looking for it, but it's all good. It's, Reiki is always good. It never is going to be anything but beneficial.
It's interesting how easy I think looking back a person can change the resonance, not only vibration, because there's sorry, there's a difference between vibration and resonance. I think the resonance is the accumulation of vibrations on different levels of a person. The
Okay.
resonance is what you vibrate after those
Oh,
vibrations are mixed and
yes.
attract and interact with. It kind of dictates, and I think you can change after looking back. I think you can change this resonance within maybe days or weeks.
Mm,
And imagine if it's that simple, how how much we self-sabotage sometimes. I look at myself sometimes and I just,
yeah.
oh my God, I'm anxious because something happened. I don't know, maybe in my family or maybe with, I don't know who, someone I know. And it's like so small, such small things that we take for as big things, that they,
Hmm.
sorry for that. They kind of matter too much, but they actually don't matter that much. They don't do anything that life changing in our lives, but for us they are so big, and other people are struggling with much bigger things and are happy struggling with those heavy things. And we make such a fuss sometimes about the small things, and we can change this anxiousness, this reason, because this leads to anxiousness, the part that I was mentioning. So we can change all that and change the resonance quite easy with either Reiki or other practices. But now that we're talking about, the self-treatment and Reiki and integrating the elements, and it's just you don't even need to go through because I also have, the courses that are long, some of them. You don't even need to go to all those pages. You don't need to go to other people have even longer, I'm sure.
Hmm.
All those books, maybe if you don't feel like or you don't want to exactly as you said teach, but you can engage with the self-treatment and just okay add a few symbols. Maybe if you, even if you don't feel
Hmm.
comfortable with the symbols, that's fine. Just rub
Right.
your palms and send universal energy because you are channeling it, and you change the structural vibration of different parts of your body on a mental level, soul level, self level, physical level, and emotional level. And then the resonance changes, and when it
Yeah.
changes, you realize exactly what you have mentioned. Things happen, and
Yeah.
you are like becoming like, whoa, this happened. And you're not
Yeah.
just a spectator, you're actually engaging, but
Hmm.
you're so relaxed because, and this feeling good that you mention when interacting with the right people or right events, if you continue to have it, perpetuates itself, if I say that
Yes.
correctly, it
Yes.
moves on and on and on. And it's the only person I think that can Well, there are karmic debts, of course, that we need to take into account.
Sure.
Sometimes they happen, but the only person that can change this rhythm, I think, it's only you, because we have
Right.
the sabotage, or the
Right.
self-sabotage.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that word resonance. I've never thought of that word in as far as using it on myself. But yes, that is kind of what you give out. And,
Yeah.
what Reiki did for me, I believe, and I do when I do my practice, I do kind of a combination like you do on your Sunday shows,
Yeah.
kind of some of it's organ, depending on how I'm feeling. But I always do the chakras. I didn't start that way. I learned traditional and I used traditional for a very long time. And then I don't know if it was when I started with you and ReikiScoop or maybe even before, I kind of went to the chakras. I was interested and I had
Hmm.
started to learn about them and I do and the blockages that you talk about
Yeah.
have been very helpful. Um, I do believe that there was a lot of emotional blockage in my body. I just feel like when you to me, when you've unblocked something, it's almost like a layer of stress leaves. It's
Yes.
like you kind of feel like your your resonance, your frequency has changed, and it's it's not right away, and it certainly isn't necessarily always that exactly which chakra it was, but I know that especially my throat chakra and I think maybe because of the thyroid issues I have too, but that has been profoundly affected because my ability to express myself, my being comfortable expressing my authentic person, who I am now, that was a big thing for me. Learning who I was
Yeah.
authentically because I really didn't know. I'm still probably a people pleaser. Being a teacher, you just naturally do
Naturally, yeah.
things for others, and being a mother, you naturally do things for others, and you kind of put yourself behind and second. It's just a natural thing, and some of it comes with age. I must admit, I'm in that almost 70 range, and
Oh,
you have experiences that help you learn, but Reiki really did give me more of a confidence in knowing who I was authentically, and my experience and my age probably is like I don't care anymore what people think of me, so I'm just going to be who I am.
of
But
course.
I'm proud of who I am now. I mean, I've come a long way. I think people see it who have known me a long time, that I'm more confident in speaking about myself and who I am and what I feel, because I feel it's from a very honest and truthful place. Not that it wasn't before, but I couldn't really put my words together about it. And so that chakra I know has been affected. And
Uh,
then the rest of it, I've become more intuitive. I think I've always been intuitive, but you become more aware that you're intuitive. Like
This is the opening that you
right?
receive through
Yeah,
practice. Yeah, meditation practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like you hear something in your inner voice or something happens and you trust it or you follow it and you're like, wow, I wouldn't have done that before. Or you react a certain way to something. I'll be for me it's less reactive. So I'll be less reactive to something that happens, especially if it has to do with change. Change was a big thing for me, and I my whole life has been basically around change, and I think it was something I had a hard time with, but through practice and meditation, I'm able to navigate those changes with less stress, and I see that. I mean, I can actually feel that, and how when something happens, and then in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, what? That was different. I did that differently. I didn't have that reaction I would have had before. So those were some of the things I think in the using the chakras as part of your Reiki practice, I think is really important.
I was talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago, and he's not so much into spirituality but he knows what I obviously. He's a long
Hmm.
time friend. I know him for like 25 years, something like this. And he said, "Yeah, we're talking about emotions and about some movie that we saw and about the ideas, the concepts." And he said that emotions are generated from the brain. And I said, "Look, I don't want to contradict because science has, I say this, I take it upon myself, has yet to actually 100% find where do they generate. And I do mean generate, not where they feel. Because here's the thing, we feel those emotions and feelings, because you mentioned the chakras. Where do you feel fear when you are afraid or you are scared? You feel it in the stomach. Where do you feel love? You feel it from the heart. Where do you feel
Hmm.
that anxiousness, butterflies? You feel it also in the stomach area. Where do you feel vital energy? You feel it low under the
Hmm.
abdomen. Where do you feel that you want to speak something and the throat is like, like there's a knot in the throat? You feel it in the throat
Hmm.
area. When you have a headache or you are just you feel like you absorbed so many things from the people around you and you're just so fatigued, you feel it in the head area, in the front part of the head area. And all those, you're not going to feel love in your left shoulder. You're not going to feel you're not going to feel fear in your knees. You're going to feel it in a specific area. So
Right.
those feelings or emotion, I mean, there's the difference between feelings and emotions. These emotions, if you take a step back, you look, they are on a kind of a vertical axis. So my guess
Hmm.
is, this is not right now. This is not a scientific claim. It's just my opinion, as far as my experience goes, that there is a chance that these emotions are generated by something else
Hmm.
because they manifest in different places. And if you would go to a doctor in that very second, you could teleport yourself and go to a doctor, and he could, I'm just saying, open you and see
Hmm.
what's inside. He is not going to see any kind of organ that's affected by that fear. It's not going
Right.
to be like, oh, right now I'm going to doctor. The fear will not be there physically. It's going to be
Right.
something invisible, but you feel it. So I
Right.
think those emotions are generated, my opinion is, by these energy centers, chakras, which are more than just vortexes of energy. They are also, and they are the energetic interfaces. I like to say it for the outside world, but they are also gates of consciousness. And
Hmm.
that openness and resonance, I think, goes and manifests through these chakras. At least that's
Hmm.
just my opinion so far. Maybe in some time in the future I might change that, but for now that's how I see things.
Yeah. No,
And for
I
you?
I agree with that. That I think it's a nice addition to a Reiki practice to start to
Yeah.
use those centers as a place to place your hands.
I know it wasn't. They're not part of the traditional Reiki. I can agree
Right.
upon that. I've studied traditional Reiki as well, so I understand. Gendai Reiki more specifically, and I know he is a Romanian student of Hiroshi Doi, which I met in Japan. Hiroshi Doi in 2023. It was 100 years of Reiki, but because of the pandemic, they had to delay. Instead of
Right.
2022, they made 2023. So he's a wonderful person. Hiroshi Doi doesn't speak too much English, but he was very humble and nice. And he teaches traditional Reiki. And in traditional Reiki, there are no chakras. There are maybe the
Right.
tandens, the three main power centers: the mind, the soul, and the vital
Yes.
energy. But they address the organs, they address tissues, they address bones, they address joints, they address other elements
Mhm.
which correspond to chakras. But
Yeah, they
their
do.
their intention is to go that light, to go that energy, to go to those places more exactly, not to the chakras. Of course, it matters when we place the intention. So the thing is that even if they're not traditional elements, the chakras of Reiki, they go very well. They complement each other very well because it's really, I mean, Reiki really goes well with many other approaches and practices, beneficial ones, obviously,
Mhm.
because there are others which we don't want to
Right.
mention. It's not a topic for today. And goes well with sports, meditation. I don't know, theta
Mhm.
healing. I've tried with tantra meditations. I tried with what else? Even in martial arts, I tried to to how you say, you drain that low vibration energy after a training.
Mhm.
because you feel yourself with a different vibration for vitality and for, it's a lower vibration energy, obviously, for fighting.
Mhm.
So it's, you drain that when you come home, so you don't have to keep it in your house or when you
Right.
go to sleep. Or if you want to practice some other form of therapy, qigong, tai chi, I mentioned qigong, tai chi, perhaps it helps a lot,
Mhm.
Reiki. So it can complement a lot of approaches and practices, and I think there's no mistake in adding the chakras to Reiki, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. It kind of came naturally for me, so I can't really exactly remember how those hands went to the chakras, but I think it probably had something to do with meditations that I had been following, or just information I was reading about, whatever. But yeah, I think it's a nice part of the practice. I don't think you have. I mean, I don't think you have to use it if you don't want
No, of
to.
course
But I
not.
think it. But I think it was for me. It was a nice addition, and I truly felt like there were, and still are, areas that need to be worked on. And um, I think your daily practice. If you're doing a daily practice, you get I think more sensitive to how you're feeling on it each day and what's
True,
different.
true.
You
Yeah.
know, what organ is bothering you, or if you've got a cold or whatever. But I think emotionally, it's also, how you woke up, or what's happened during the day before that practice, or, or yesterday. And then you kind of can work that. Like, there's a lot of times when I'm traveling, I concentrate on my root chakra because I need that groundedness as we're moving around. That's really important, during that time.
Yeah.
So, it's those kinds of things that I might change a little bit in my daily practice depending on what I'm doing.
And practitioners would be amazed if, if they, especially beginners who are maybe recently attuned or are looking forward to being
Mhm.
attuned to Reiki, when they will start practice and they will discover things that can surface, and this might be scary for some, but in order to evolve, to heal, or to function better in this world, and to function better in your own personal life, in function
Mhm.
better towards yourself, so to speak, to have
Yeah.
a better feeling of being
Mhm.
yourself, let's say,
Right. Exactly.
you will be amazed how many things you will surface from each hand position when you address the chakras, even if you address only the organs as a traditional hand positions, because the
Right.
organs also have secondary, those are the secondary chakras for each organ.
Right.
Even especially if you address the primary ones, you will surface things. You'll surface elements that you didn't know existed there. If you thought you are maybe so great or so pure, you will discover that you have things to solve. If you think that you are, if you're downsizing yourself, if you're hitting yourself in with self-sabotage, you realize, oh my goodness, my potential. What am I
Mhm.
doing?
Mhm.
And the mind will be cleared, emotions stacked from childhood can be cleared, traumas can be cleared after their surface, they can be cleared. That's why the Reiki has the practice, the
Right.
daily, especially in the beginning, the daily practice, because it's a very gradual way of healing. It's not a
Yes.
sudden way. And I have experienced
Yes.
practices which are sudden. And for some people, they're not so recommended, not so good. But Reiki can address everybody who is just, like you said, opened, willing a little bit to do some work from an emotional, energetic, spiritual perspective.
Mhm.
So I think that addressing the chakras again, even if you're not, even if you are just practicing the traditional hand positions, you are going to stimulate a little bit the chakras as well. You're going to surface things, and that's the healing that takes place,
Mhm.
because most, if not all, of the imbalances on a physical level have a source, have their origins within the emotional and
Yes.
eventually energetic layers,
Yes.
whether we like it or not.
That's so true. The first time I went to a naturopathic doctor, and this was in the height of my health challenges, she asked me for my medical history. So I was kind of telling her what was going on. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, LuAnn, you are so much more than a migraine." Because at the time I was having daily migraines, but she's like, this is way more than just a physical issue.
Yeah.
And so that was really telling. And I think that was also when Reiki came pretty much after that. So, um, that emotional piece was very much tied into my health. Now, it wasn't, I don't, it's hard to tell what one started first. So who knows if the emotional created the health challenge or the health challenge created the emotional, but they're all tied together.
They're tied
But she
together,
was,
yes.
yeah, she was so right because again, I think, like I said before, when you do Reiki, and I agree with you that it's very gradual. So people who are starting, I encourage them to stay with it because in the beginning it may not feel like much. You may not get those, big changes
Yeah.
or the big feelings right away. It does definitely accumulate, and so you'll start to see it as you have been practicing a while, the changes that occur. But I think what happens in the beginning is you have a sense of getting to know yourself better, and you have a sense of a control around yourself. I think so. I think right now, especially in our world, we don't feel like we have control over anything. There's just so much going
Yeah,
on
I know.
that to be able to have some sense of control over yourself in a good, positive way,
Yeah.
not prohibitive, but in a positive way. That's so important right now, probably more than ever. But I think that's what Reiki helps to bring is just a sense of being able to do something positive for yourself. And in doing that, you bring positivity to the world because you start to send out, like you said, that resonance.
Like a
And
signal. Yeah.
yeah, I just can't help but feel that everyone that's doing Reiki, everyone that's doing a positive spiritual practice is having some impact on our world. And eventually, just like Reiki, it accumulates and we will see it coming, hopefully in the near future.
Brick by brick, each person that does as best as they can to heal as much as possible from their emotional and energetic level and mental level, I think they contribute little by little to the changing of vibration of this world.
Yeah.
Now we cannot, I mean, one person, I don't think one person can change, well, it depends who that is, the world,
Right.
but we contribute a little bit to this, to
Yeah.
helping, step by step.
Yeah.
And I think there are a few changes in the world, and I think in the 90s was one of the changes, especially in my country, after communism fell. And there were a lot of Reiki practitioners, that good ones, not charlatans, good ones. And one of
Hmm.
them was my teacher, and still is my teacher. And there were many writing books and very interested people. They were the pioneers in my country, at least for developing, for bringing the idea and the concept of Reiki and actually blending it with other practices.
Mm.
And I think, look at William Lee Rand. He channeled Karuna Reiki around the late 90s, and then Holy
Uh-huh.
Fire in the beginning of 2000s, if I remember. There was John Armitage who channeled in the late 90s Shambhala Reiki, so Shambhala
Right.
multidimensional healing. And I think there are many, and they were not alone, obviously, but there was
Sure.
a shift. And I think there are periods of time when there
Hmm.
are shifts, and people hopefully will
Yeah.
change for the better. And yeah.
Right. Right. There is a quote, and I don't know, I can't attribute it to someone specific, but it says, "Heal yourself, you heal the world." And I think it's not necessarily the world at large. For me, when we're talking world, it's like I have an effect on my corner of the world.
Mhm.
My whatever little piece of the world I'm living in, that's the piece I can have a positive effect on. And if everybody does that same thing, then, that builds and builds. But,
That's
if
true.
I think about trying to heal the world, it's a little bit too much and a little overwhelming. But if I think about what can I do in my family, what can I do for myself, my husband, what are the things that are positively happening that I can impact, then that gives me a little more peace of control or feel like I have some effect.
Because if
And
you help heal them, or you help raise their attention or awareness towards the idea, the fact that something beyond the physical realm exists and you can tap into it a little bit, they also can offer this knowledge further along the line,
yes,
or to friends, or to acquaintances, or to people they meet, and or maybe to coworkers. And
right.
this message goes away. It doesn't have to be only Reiki, obviously. It can be something
No,
that, it's
no,
about healing yourself from a, and not just lighting a incense, which is great, and not just
yeah,
listening to 432 hertz, which is
yeah,
great. It's about a deeper concept, an element of actually practicing something, whether it's
Right.
Qigong, whether it's Theta healing, whether it's meditation, Reiki,
Yes.
whatever makes you feel whole, healed, and that you can express yourself or discharge certain elements that are not useful for you and for your life.
Exactly.
Is there any advice you would like to offer to those who are on their journey of Reiki, maybe in the beginning, or are a bit maybe confused of where to go, what to do next? Maybe are level 1 or 2 Sui Reiki and they don't know what to do. You have a message
You
for
know,
them?
yes. Well, if they're listening, that then they've already kind of started, right? I mean, if they're
Hopefully.
listening and this has found them, then I think they are probably at least curious, or they're on a path of trying to find something that is going to positively affect them. And if Reiki is part of that, all I couldn't say is really to encourage whoever is listening that is interested in Reiki, curious about Reiki, to move forward with it. Because if they're aware of it, I really believe that's a message. If you're aware that Reiki is out there, or you're aware that you're curious about Reiki, what Reiki is, that is actually coming to you. That is actually a message to you to move forward, because it is a positive practice.
It
It
is.
is, it doesn't do anything but benefit somebody. So it's never going to, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry about as to how it's going to, play out in your life. It's only going to be positive. So that my advice is just follow that energy, because that's what it is. There's an energy here that's attracting you, and follow that. And I encourage people to practice, um, to get that first attunement,
Mhm.
because you don't have to do anything but practice and get that first attunement, and then see what happens. And I think the hardest part for beginners, truthfully, is to stick with it.
Yeah.
It's finding
It's
that,
working. Yeah. A
yeah,
little bit of
it's
work.
trying to find that time, because there is an element of time with practice. But I was telling you my current practice today is a combination of meditation and Reiki. And I practice, oh my goodness, I just lost it. Um,
Don't worry.
I practice Kundalini meditation, which is a
Yeah.
chanting meditation. And I combine my hand positions of Reiki and my Reiki practice in with my meditation. So I'm doing it together. I mean, when I first learned, I was doing Reiki by itself, laying down, doing the whole practice. And I do a whole practice now, but it's shorter. It's kind of similar to what you do in our ReikiScoop Sunday sessions. It's kind of
The
just a
bliss.
few
Yeah.
minutes on each area, kind of whatever intuitively brings you to either an organ or a chakra or whatever. But I've incorporated into that, so that I'm doing those things together, and I do it in a daily way. And so that has kind of evolved as my practice. And I think people just need to find a way to find a place within their day. And it could be just a few minutes. Maybe it's just 5-10 minutes to start.
Exactly. They
It
don't need to
doesn't
stay an
have to
hour. Yeah.
be, yeah, it doesn't have to be 45 minutes, doesn't have to be a full body practice. Although that would be my suggestion in the beginning, if you can do that, because it is the way you get to know the practice and you know yourself the best. But I think it's just trying to find that time within your day. I think once, and they say, well, you have a 21-day program. They say 21
Yes.
days after an attunement. I also believe 40 days is another nice time. There's lots of either scientific or spiritual practices that will say 40 days is the way to make a habit stay. So, if you can, even for just that first 21 days or that first 40 days, cut out a little bit more time for Reiki, especially if you're that interested in it, because it will bring such positivity to yourself. But I know that that is the challenge. I understand that, but I think it's well worth it.
And you don't, indeed, you don't need to spend a whole hour. I think that, it's just, I don't know if those who are maybe looking forward or on practicing Reiki, they just need to place their hands basically on certain
Yes,
areas of their body. So it's not
yes,
really nothing that much work. And just
no,
the thing is that it's ideally, especially in the beginning, to relax. And, they ask, I had this teacher that told me, guys, if you really want to, don't have time, I don't know, when you're watching a movie,
yeah,
practice Reiki. While that is true, I would not recommend it in the beginning because
I,
it's a good time, it's a psychological effect as well to have the time for yourself, even if it's
yes,
15 minutes and you just maybe have a few hand positions, maybe on your head, which would be ideal to start with the head, on your soul, and maybe for the vital area, for the the sacral chakra area,
mhm,
at least, and you address those three places at least, and it's better, as my friend Peter says, 10 minutes are better than zero, even five are
exactly.
better than zero. So do
Sure,
something, because everything is better than zero. So
right,
even if you, oh, I don't have time, yeah, because you're scared maybe of the idea that you need to spend a whole hour, and oh my goodness, I have family, I have responsibilities.
right,
Yes, you all
yes,
have, and that's, everybody knows
hmm,
that it takes a lot of time if you really want to go deep into it. But try at least, before bed
hmm,
maybe, or I know in the
hmm,
morning not many people are very happy to do that because it's everybody's rushing in the morning. But a few minutes per day. If you look, I started honestly in the 21 days after I was attuned. I was so confused. I didn't know what to do. I was talking to another teacher because I knew about the 21 days, but I didn't really
hmm,
understand the symbols, what's going on.
right,
And I spent 2.5 weeks daily, and then I started one every other day, and then once
hmm,
per week. So it was okay for me like this. Maybe other people can do it once per 2 weeks. Maybe they have to do it once per day, depending on what they have to heal and how much they have to heal. And now I'm practicing sometimes at home. I'm doing it within Bliss Premium.
right,
Using the cleansing methods, the symbols, because I like to go deeper into it. But people who are in the beginning or are looking forward on being attuned, they don't need to go that deep. They just need to start a little bit to see how everything works. And the best part, it doesn't matter what your religion is or what your
no,
beliefs are. You just need to be open, because I've met
right,
from all religion practitioners.
hmm,
It doesn't really
yep,
matter. It doesn't
no,
contradict you. Not praying to anything else, anybody or anything
no.
else. You
No,
can
it,
just
yeah, I think you find out that your higher power is really within you. And then it
Indeed, you're
can, and
channeling
then it,
something that
yeah,
already you have access to, but you're guiding it more
right,
efficiently, let's say.
right. I mean, I mean, we know scientifically that we're all part of the universe, that we're
Yeah.
all made up of the same materials, and whatever that higher power is to you is the most important. It doesn't have to be religious or anything like that. It's really more within you, what that voice is within you. When I One of the ways I started, now that we're talking, I remember is I did start doing my practice right before I went to bed. So I was laying down. So there were a lot of times I fell asleep as I was doing Reiki, but that was
That's
okay,
okay.
But
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
started, but at least I was getting it in kind of a daily way, or I would do it in the morning, especially when I was watching my grandkids. I'd do it before I got out of bed, and then my day could start. But now I have a lot more time to myself, which is a wonderful thing when you're retired. And so
That's what my
I,
father says as well. Yeah.
yes, yes, there are a lot of advantages, and one of them is that you have time to do those
Yeah.
practices. But yeah, going back to your question of what to recommend. I just
Yeah.
recommend moving forward. Just be open, and if Reiki is coming to you, there's a message in that. Go ahead and follow it.
And if it's not about Reiki, something that involves emotional, mental, energetic, and spiritual,
Hmm.
tapping into those elements,
Yes.
besides taking, of course, we're not against modern medicine. I take as well medicine, so it's not about that. I'm just saying that
No.
complement
Yes.
the movement you do, the
Yeah.
sports you do. Maybe you do physical activity a lot. You take supplements. I do as well.
Sure.
I mean, I'm honest about it, and not heavy things, just the
Yeah.
regular
Oh,
vitamins and
me
minerals.
too.
And
Me
if,
too.
I'll be honest, if my head hurts in a way that I can't even send Reiki to myself because I'm so, I don't know, I just have a strange migraine, I take a pill, but I
Hmm.
also apply Reiki.
Yep.
And sometimes before I have a symptom, I try to use Reiki and then
Hmm.
address pills and do both. I mean,
Hmm.
we're not contradicting any kind of modern
No.
approach. We're just saying that in order to reach the root cause of certain elements of oneself, you need to go to those roots, and those roots cannot be attained, cannot be tapped into, to be more precise, unless you go into spiritual practice. And Reiki
Right.
is one of them, and in my opinion, is the most efficient
Hmm.
one.
Yeah, there's a lot of research now about using Reiki in hospitals, using
Yeah.
Reiki with cancer patients, and basically the research is saying that it allows a person, and this I've experienced this, it allows a person who's physically ill to relax to a point where their body can allow the healing. Because a lot of times we're so stressed or emotions are part of it that it blocks our ability to heal. So Reiki will allow you to relax. It allows the energy to move through you, and that healing takes place either quicker or with less pain. So there's, I don't have anything to give you as a link, but I know there's a lot of links out there. If you just Google Reiki and research, or health, hospitals, that there's a lot of research now coming out showing how Reiki is being used and in a positive way like that.
And when I was in Japan, I met a lot of ladies from Minnesota, I think they were, that were trying, and not only trying, they were already succeeding, and they just want to perpetuate this idea to place Reiki in health centers and hospitals
Mhm.
in USA, generally speaking
Mhm.
in USA, and in the UK as well. There were a few ladies from the UK, if I remember, and they were also trying to do that, which is already implemented in some of them in UK, and more than UK, there is a few in United States which implemented Reiki, whether it's just for relaxation or for creating a more stable mindset, or for actually healing. That's going to be debated when we can prove everything,
Exactly.
because science is still in an infant stage. We are
Yes,
developing
right.
medicine and science, but 500 years, if you said the earth is round, you know what would happen to you.
Right,
So
right. It's encouraging
it
anyway.
takes time. I don't know when, but
Right.
hopefully in our lifetimes, but I don't know.
Yeah,
But
no,
things will be
I,
proven more and more about that. And there are more
yeah.
and more studies, I think. But there's no investment in this because we have
No,
other elements in this world that need to take
no,
care of.
right. I think those are just added, um, that's just added information to, to kind of give you an idea that there is something to Reiki, that
Yeah.
there is a lot going on with Reiki,
And we can't know everything yet,
and we
but there
don't
is
know
something
everything.
more than
Right,
just relaxation.
right,
Yeah.
right. And I mean, there's a lot of it. Reiki's bringing a lot of people together, and so that's a really cool thing too. I love the Reiki Scoop Sundays. I don't get them live because of the time change and just life.
Yeah.
But I enjoy. So I don't have a spiritual community, so to speak, around me that much. I have a meditation group when I'm in the winter, at in Tucson where we stay. But I enjoy the Reiki Scoop Sunday parts because it makes me feel like I am part of a community when I'm practicing, even if it's virtually. And I don't necessarily need it to keep me practicing. I'm doing that on my own, but I like the the ability to practice with someone, even if it is virtually.
Indeed.
My girlfriend and I, the girl that introduced me to Reiki, here's I don't know if you've ever done this, but sometimes virtually or sometimes even when we're together, we will do side by side Reiki. So we'll just be sitting next to each other and we'll just have music on and I'll do Reiki on myself. She'll do Reiki on herself. It's a really interesting experience. We've practiced on each other too,
Yeah.
but there's just something interesting about practicing with someone in community. just
I used to
together.
do
And
this in seminars, and that's how I learned for
mm,
many years, and live and courses. And we did this, yes, and this is wonderful. And I miss
yeah,
that community. My teacher doesn't do those seminars anymore. He started just a few weeks ago, but I don't know if he's gonna keep it as he used to
mm,
keep it every week. It was like two times per
okay,
week. I'll see. But
yeah.
anyways,
But
that's
I
the.
guess I just enjoy and I appreciate you doing something on a weekly basis because
Thank you so much.
I think for those of us that are part of, that have learned Reiki, especially if we've been attuned by you, but I think it's a community that I think you benefit from. Reiki is a individual experience, but it
Indeed,
is also an experience in community, and I
yes.
think both of those things are interesting and important.
When you practice, when more people practice, let's say the flow is exponentially stronger. I don't like to use
Mm-hmm.
strong and
Mm-hmm.
powerful in Reiki because it's not about that, but I don't know any other word to
Yeah.
use right now.
No, but
The
it's
flow is
like
more
you've
abundant.
yeah, and it's like you found your people, right? Like
Yes, and you
these are
have
people that
this.
understand me.
Exactly.
They
These
understand
the
my
people and this
practice.
they are like you can resonate with them and you feel comfortable. And I know how it is, and now it just brings memories from 2000s, 2003 up to 2011, something like this. We had this like a group of people, and some people left, but there were a few who were very very consistent, and I miss those days. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope I appreciate it as much as because
Yeah.
I know I was going as much as I could, and somehow I knew that that time will pass, and it's good to use it then.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I did
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you so much for being here,
Oh,
and
thank
Luan, it
you.
was wonderful. And I don't want to make this too long, although it was. I mean, I would like to speak to you for ages, but what to do?
Yes.
It was really a pleasure. And well, what can I say? We'll keep in touch.
Yes,
We'll
we
try to
will.
do those live sessions with those from Shambhala, those from Bliss Premium as well. I'm trying to do my best to take into account the time zones. But until then,
Right.
we'll
All
talk,
right.
we'll keep in touch, maybe through email. And thank you so much once again for being
Oh,
here,
thank you.
Ran.
Thank you. Peace.
Thank you. Be at peace. Bye bye.